Thanks everyone for joining us, and it's really wonderful to. I was just sharing with Christine before this to be asked to be here, because I love any chance I have to share about how much I loved my time at Gordon and how formative it was for me. The relationships there, and the content and the posture that was modeled to us by the professors and my classmates. And so yeah, so I'm just delighted to be here, and to get to celebrate with you guys kind of about the program, and yeah, just the gifts that are given to us, even in times such as these. So yeah, so I think I'll share my screen, and we can kind of dive in. If I can. And oh, I guess before I'm just going to share, a bit of kind of giving context to my journey, I guess, as a maker, and then I'll share a few things along the way of things that I've been making, and then at the end, if you're still with me, we can maybe do a little live tour. I can just kind of walk you around a structure that I'm currently building, so to kind of give you a roadmap. So, all right, let's see. Try to present. All right, can you see this, everyone? Awesome. All right, so I'll just dive in. Building spaces. So our vision and curiosity, like any muscle, can grow and strengthen. And this was a huge aspect of my training at Gordon. The Italian architect Carlo Scarpa once said, "I draw in order to see." And Gordon provided a rich soil to cultivate this vision through the making of our hands and the growing sensitivity of our hearts and minds. We were trained to engage in and with focal vision and peripheral vision. There was a strong sense of family and community within the department, which was largely due to the professors who not only cared for our growth as makers, but also our flourishment as human beings with souls and stomachs. We had lots of coffee and chocolate meetings. Oops. Oh. Hi, Mom. Okay. Oops. I'm trying. Oh, there we go. So out of that sense of community and belonging, there was a freedom to fail. One of my professors, who may or may not be here right now, would frequently say to me, fail better. So there was this freedom to fail and to push our work and exploration past the breaking point. And
I'm sorry.
I spent quite a bit of time seeking out discarded materials from dumpsters, or discarded tea bags, coffee, lint from the dryer store,
Sophie,
whatever you name it. And that seems to be the theme that continues to follow. Okay. So I studied abroad with the Gordon in Orvieto program, and there, you're not only making tons of work and in eating an incredible amount of gelato, but you're doing so in a very particular context. We were living alongside of buildings that are manifest layers of time. You know, you're within one person's house, like our neighbors, you can just see layers of Etruscan, Roman, medieval, all the way up to modern day. And this really that was very formative and kind of planted seeds for me during that time. And so anyway, so all of the work and dialogue that we did was within that context. And for example, I took a oil painting and Dante class where, you know, you're not only reading Dante, but and learning how to create narrative paintings. But then we would go on excursions and we'd go up to Florence and go look at the actual paintings that Dante was looking at. And you know, we were encountering, whoops, I kind of have skipped ahead a little bit on my pictures, but that's okay. We were encountering the very spaces, there we go. We were encountering the very spaces where martyrs were killed, where visions were received, and there are also just spaces that, you know, we would return to every single day. One of, for our drawing class, we had a project where you had to return to the same spot, like a small little corner. Mine was like in a little alleyway on some steps, and you'd return there day after day after day, and you would draw the space. And then, you know, after making a massive drawing, well, before that, there was just this kind of rhythm of draw something, now erase or destroy half of it, and then draw it again, but more, and then erase and just destroy even more of it, you know. And there's this this kind of not holding so tightly to your work, but hey Becca, yeah, anyway, so there were definitely rhythms and encounters that were formative seeds in a journey that I will forever be on happily. So just, yeah, that kind of relating to people and spaces in and across time. So then I guess I'll just keep going forward if that's okay. Okay, so after I graduated and I had the opportunity to go to Italy for a bit of time as a teaching assistant. After that, I moved back to the States and began work as a stonemason. And I knew I wanted to continue to dive into architectural spaces. So I thought, you know, what better place to start than the literal foundations? And you know, each building, each space is within a space, you know, and kind of starting with perhaps the landscape or the foundations. So yeah, and in my senior year at Gordon, we had a class called Art and Vocation, which was amazing. And different speakers would come talk to us and share a bit about their work and their journey as makers and artists. And that's how I found out about the North Bennet Street School in Boston. And North Bennet Street School, it's they claim to be America's first trade school. And yeah, so the past 2 years, I've been training in preservation carpentry, where we're specifically focusing on buildings that are built between the 17th and 19th century in New England. And again, yeah, just this, well, I'll just let it speak first. So anyway, so one of the projects I've been working on this year has to do with John Hancock's prior house on Beacon Street. And it was perhaps some of people might not know that, you know, in the late 1880s, it was knocked down, and before it was knocked down, a lot of the context of the house were kind of disseminated. They had a huge estate sale, and this, you know, as a result of this, of the house being knocked down, it just instigated a huge outcry within the people in Boston, because all of a sudden they were like, wait a second, we can't be knocking down all of the, you know, this is a historic structure, and this isn't right. And that kind of caught flame a little bit, and started what some people call the preservation movement in America, and lots of different organizations sprung up. Historic New England, for example. So anyway, a few years ago, my instructors at my school happened upon this door in a archive collection, and it was the door from the John Hancock from house. And anyway, my instructors wanted to give this this door, return it to its context. And so that's what we've ever since we've been working on, restoring it to its context. And this is the original house, and you can, so right, we're basically doing the two, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the facade of just the door surround, which is basically the first floor door, second floor door, and then everything around it. So the balustrade and the pilasters, which are like flat columns that are next to the door. Yeah, anyway, so it's been quite a collaboration. And this is a photo. We went to the PBD Essex Museum. They found that they all of a sudden, we were asking all of these organizations, like, do you have anything on this house? Do you have any documents? Do you have any fragments? And they went and looked, and lo and behold, they had one of the interior capitals. And so the project that I took on was one of the capitals for one of the pilasters next to the door. And so it started out with this log, and my instructor and I, we milled it up into a big block, basically, and kind of working on it. Still have things to finish, but this is a kind of an up-to-date photo of it. And there's more to say. They are just incredible instructors who really took me under their wing, and yeah, it's just kind of who are people who are masters, and they have such a desire to pass on what they know, because they love what they do so much, and find it important. And so it's been a gift to be on the receiving end of that, undeservedly. And then a few other things in terms of spaces that I've been learning to build, different kinds of structures. So this is called a stick frame construction, where we handmade these double doors, and everything start from finish, copper roof, and that sort of thing. And then this is a timber frame that we built, and some, using the traditional tools and weird axe thing is called an adze, which is kind of fun. One of my favorite tools, actually. It's gets a nice curve to it. Some in-process photos. And then just quickly, I'll just kind of brush through a project that I started during the pandemic, and probably well into the pandemic. But I have been collaborating and with actually one of my previous professors at Gordon, Abby Yitzenhandel, and she has a business called Modern Homestead where they do landscape design. And so this is a design that she came up with, and for my parents' yard, and it's so beautiful, all hand drawn. And here is a little, I pointed an arrow to where she put she shed. And so after that kind of made some sparks fly about, okay, so there needs to be a structure there, and ended up deciding to build it because that's, yeah. So again, milling up the wood for it out of logs. These were the timbers, and just some photos of, digging 4 feet down for the concrete piers to go below the frost line, which helps when the soil is kind of freezing and thawing. It rises and falls. But if you build something below that frost line, then it kind of withstands those currents, which perhaps there's metaphors in there. So this is, I mentioned before, I keep finding myself in dumpsters and piles of trash. Those were stones that I used for the foundation, and just some photos. This is, we were doing learning a technique that then I used for the shed called hewing, and it's basically a way to remove material off of a timber with an axe. You're just cutting wedges and then scoring it to get a curve. And then I had a bunch of my friends and classmates, friends from church and neighbors come and help me raise some of the walls, because traditionally, you'd have a whole community come and raise a barn. And in a time where perhaps, we're so independent, it was really wonderful to kind of practice interdependence, perhaps, and I could not have done it without them. It was a huge help. So just some photos, them putting it together, and traditionally, apparently, you would raise a frame and then roast a pig afterwards. So this is my friend Judy, and we had a feast before. Actually, we probably should have eaten afterwards, but we ate before. So yeah, that's kind of some, that's it. Thank you. Hey, Linda. Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, and slash if you're up for it, I'm right by the construction site, and I could kind of take you guys over a little bit and maybe walk around and show you some of where it's at, and yeah.
Yeah, do you want to take us on the tour, and then we can sit back down and answer some questions, or whatever works, I think.
Sure, great. I guess I think I'll just take the laptop and and see how this goes. So actually, before I take you, I would like to read you guys something that kind of paints the hope, I guess, for this space. So it's a poem by a poet called W.B. Yeats, and the poem is called "The Lake Isle of Innisfree." I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there, of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnights all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray. I hear it in the deep heart's core. So, so I've decided to, to call this space Innisfree, and perhaps we'll have to get some bees or something, or a little, yeah. Anyway, so I'll take you over here. Let's see. This is the site, and just kind of walk you through the space. Let's see. Maybe I'll go this way because then I can see. Yeah, that's better. And I'll just walk backwards. So right now, I'll kind of walk this way and give you an idea. So right here is going to be the doorway. And then here, there's going to be a window, okay? So we're gonna, you would walk through the doorway. I'll walk over here just so you get an idea. There's also going to be a roof that goes up and that way, and then a window up here in the gable. This end is called the gable side, and then this long end is called the eaves wall. So anyway, fun fact. And then let's see, maybe and then if you guys have any questions or whatever, we can I can walk you through whatever you want to know. If you have any questions, I've laid these 2 timbers here are going to be, there's more of them in my shop right now, but these are going to be the roof rafters, and so they're just kind of old timbers that my instructor saved from a house that was being demolished in Plymouth, and he pulled them out. They were actually floor joists, which are kind of beams that hold up the floor. But anyway, and the other timbers came from the logs that I milled up, and this one also came from a house that was about to be demolished, so that was pulled out. And yeah, and then and then this is the other far gable end, if you can kind of see. So right now there's only one curve, but imagine there's going to be another curve that mirrors it, which is right now kind of lying down, but you can see it right there. And yeah, and then there's going to be a window right in the center. And then I'll move out for a second. One kind of fun thing about this all, it's just like God, I feel like through this whole process has just been providing and delighting in providing. You know, there's I was on a run one time, and in my neighborhood I was running, and I saw that someone was getting work done on their roof, and I thought to myself, there's no way that that's a slate roof. But I just ran over and checked. And for anyone who doesn't know, slate is a kind of stone, and it's cut into really thin pieces. Come over and show you. Anyway, but it actually was, it actually happened to be a slate roof, and they were taking it all off, and they were throwing it away in a dumpster and putting on asphalt shingles. And slate is actually, it's actually a really, it has great longevity. It could last over 100 years, 200 years if kind of cared for properly. And it kind of comes in these thin sheets. Also, they remind me of some painter who's in the room right now. His paintings, sometimes there's just like some beautiful kind of just discoloration and things like that. Anyway, so that's a provision, you know, and so that's going to be on the roof as slate shingles. So yeah, oh yeah, and then just one other thing, as you walk in to the doorway, centered on the back wall is going to be a little wood stove that I have out there that I picked up, and then 2 chairs that are side by side. I mean, flanked, like either side of the little wood stove, and then halfway up that beam right there is called a nailer. Halfway up is going to be brick, which is a good heat kind of reflectant, and then plaster, white plaster in between the beams, so you can see the structure. One thing that I love about timber framing is just that the structural integrity is also the beauty. Yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna stop talking because I've been talking too much. Yeah.
Sophie, that was wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
And
thanks, Bruce.
one of the things I thought that you didn't mention, which is so obvious to me, is the craftsmanship that goes into cutting those mortise and tenon joints. Because unlike modern balloon framing or stick framing, which you could just shoot with a nail gun and just slam along as you go, you have to plan out every single joint and cut them out by hand in this case, because you're using chisels and saws, right?
Yeah.
And then those joints have to fit perfectly together, so you have an upright, true wall. And that's really impressive that you've learned to do that in this short a time. I mean, that's not an easy skill to acquire, and very few people have that skill anymore. Because we've replaced it with all these cheap ways of doing things, fast ways of doing things.
Yeah, that's I mean, well, one that definitely speaks to my school and just the instructors there, like just the way in which they both inundate us with information, but also in a way that kind of is progressive in terms of like, okay, learn one thing, a small little thing here, and then make it a little bigger, and then add 2, and then and just kind of it keeps building, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we know how to do this. So but back to your point, yeah, I think that's a really good point. There is a difference between the stick framing, which was really kind of kicked up in the Industrial Revolution, when kind of efficiently trying to put up houses as fast as we could, and get lumber in, further to the west, and it was easier to transport lumber that was lighter. These things are massive and so heavy, and but yeah, you're right. Find timber frames so beautiful, and I just think every house should be a timber. Yeah.
Well, just one last thing about that. So it feels in some ways that a skill like that is antique, outdated, not efficient, because nowadays we got plywood, and plywood can make a structure rigid very quickly, not a lot of extra skill. But I think the key word you're using there is beauty, because you let go of some of that beauty the minute you trade it for efficiency. And it's a gradual metamorphosis in our society, but now we have buildings that are strictly speaking functional. And they're ugly as sin. Not to put too fine a point on it,
Yeah.
Right, that's beautiful. Hey, one quick question. I know there's probably have questions, but have you taken a class in chisel sharpening? Because that is really hard, especially if you're using gouges. I mean,
yeah, that was the very first thing we learned how to do. Yeah, we spent weeks on it. Yeah, I agree. It's like, it seems like it would be something, pretty self-explanatory, like you're just sharpening a chisel, but man, that, in itself is an art and a craft, and yeah, yeah.
beautiful.
Sophie, this is so fascinating. I've learned so much just by watching, like seeing your work. It is beautiful. The structures are beautiful. And I'm just thinking some of the things that you mentioned before when you were showing the picture of kind of your version of barn raising, and just reflecting on our theme for the summer, because when I think about an artist at work, I just have, maybe this is stereotypical, but I think of the artist alone. That's a very solitary activity, alone in a studio with, the blank canvas or whatever, the medium or the tools are. But what you're showing here is a really different way to conceive of art. And I just wondered if you would talk a little bit in terms of the role of the community in the crafting of your art, and what that might say about this particular time as we kind of come out of the pandemic. What does your art say to you about this time, I guess, in our world, in our nation?
That's a good question, a big question. Not that I have any answer stamp for that. The first thing that comes to mind when you ask that is, I guess, you mentioned community, and just thinking about, where we come from, and from a God who is community, and invites us into that community, and so anyway, I love the fact that just this process of building, and even, in all of our lives, everything is connected. The food that we eat, the objects that we use, are coming from somewhere, and so that aspect I really enjoy. Just the, these trees, a man named John, goes to people's houses or a golf course, and he's the one who cuts them down, and he takes them to a lumber yard, and he's developed a relationship with my instructor, Michael, and Michael, will cut down the log, not cut down logs, but mill them, because they're, John needs to get rid of them because he's just going to throw them away, and then Michael takes the scraps, and we send them up to New Hampshire, where one of his friends turns it all into mulch, you know, and there's this, or you know, the slate or any of these materials that you know, I'm finding there's people and stories that are a part of now this structure, and even raising the frame, needing others to do that, or the very skills, my body, you know, like it's all a gift. It's all connected and dependent on those around me. You know, I just think about all the people in my life, from the time that I was born. You know, I think of my time at Gordon, the mentors and relationships that have kind of, you know, nurtured and helped cultivate something, you know, that God is, anyway, that we're all connected. And so perhaps, you know, it's a good thing that when we're making work, that we're, I guess, just present to that reality, and you know, and it's a joy to lean into it, because yeah, it's just so much more fun when others can participate as well.
No, that's just lovely. That's so lovely, Sophie. And I think just thinking about what we've lost in terms of that sense of community in the past year and a half. And I think seeing your art in the ways in which this woodworking, your craft, how you are so connected, as you just described, to others, it really is I think, a kind of an antidote maybe to this hunger for community that we've all been feeling, I think. So as a kind of an art that can kind of help us come into this new normal or post-pandemic, whatever we would call this time, it just seems to me that what you are doing is a really good model for that, and kind of maybe it's a kind of an art that can point the way to remind us of what it means to be part of community, part of the body of Christ, for those of us who are followers of Christ. So anyway, gorgeous, really gorgeous work. Ryan, did you have some questions you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I'll jump in with the question. Yeah, I'm just wondering, I know you've talked a little bit tonight about your time in college, and even before this, we were talking a little bit about that. So I'm just wondering if you have any advice that you would offer to maybe students that are just about to come into college and start their sort of artistic journey, but then also maybe advice that you would offer to upcoming rising seniors who are about to graduate. Any advice you would sort of give them for what life is like right after graduation?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think for I think, you know, for both categories of people, to lean in, you know, to lean into the people that are around you, the people that you've been placed with, and lean into your professors, you know, lean into what is good, you know, think about what gives you life, what you know, what is the work, what are the materials, who are the people, you know, that there is life and light, and lean into that, perhaps. And you know, for and also perhaps just, again, kind of what I mentioned before, don't I don't know, just be curious, and kind of, I guess I can't tell someone that, but perhaps, you know, there's it's okay to fail, and it's good, you know, and it to make mistakes, and to yeah, so to learn from those, and I think perhaps for seniors, other than lean in and dive in, when you graduate, it's going to be a lot different. You're not going to have the space. You're not going to have that same context of a group of people, furiously working together or on your own, but kind of together. And you're not going to have the same access to materials. And so perhaps to be thinking about, about what are the barriers to making, and think about maybe ideas of how to support each other when you are outside of this context of being at Gordon. Yeah. And then the other just random kind of like for both categories as well, and something that's been like so wonderful and helpful to me is just like, if you're seeing someone that like maybe, a professional who's doing work that you're interested in or something, reach out to them. What the heck? And like ask to hear about their work and like hear like their story. And it can be really inspiring and kind of directive. Maybe, after hearing from them, you're like, oh, I thought I wanted to be like to do that, and wow, I don't know. Or it can just be it can be a good thing. So.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. And yeah, just thanks again so much for sharing tonight. This has been awesome. It's really, really cool.
Thanks.
I actually have another question, Sophie, just to turn back to the focus of your work as you were talking about the work on the John Hancock, the doors or that house. I'm just so intrigued as you were talking about the training that you're doing with woodworking, or I guess art more broadly, and the role of art in memory. I just think it's so fascinating as you talk about preservation, and just would love to hear you talk a little bit more about what you think that role of art is in, are we actually preserving, whether it's memories or history, or in what ways are we actually improving or making them better in some way, because it's a recreation, I guess. So it's not actually the thing of the past, but it's trying to recreate it in some way. Is it in what ways does it alter the memory or the history? I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts about that role, that connection, I guess, between art and memory, or I guess it's art and history as you're trying to recreate. Is that the word, recreate the past or preserve the past in some way?
Yeah. That's a really wonderful question, and I would love to just grab coffee with you sometime.
I know, I'm sure that's a huge one.
But yeah, that's like
even just a tidbit of your thinking of that. I'm sure you've been thinking as you do that work.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of pointing out just even the language of preservation versus perhaps something like restoration. And there is a difference, and there is there is something, are we just looking back? And I think someone once said it, something about, looking back and just kind of praising the ashes, or this just glorifying, or just worshiping tradition, and but what is there any life, and thinking about, yes, we do, we're all in a context, we're all past, present, and in every moment future, and so thinking about the past and how do we listen well, and learn and perhaps draw out, and we are creating, but it's never in a vacuum, and it's always, you know, coming from somewhere, which is the past. So yeah, so I think it's a good question, and I think I do personally I do like using the word restoration too, because it's like there is something that is yeah, that is perhaps more moving forward, but in kind of like a sober way, perhaps, or like a not like, oh, we got this, we know everything, like forget the past kind of thing, but learning from people and befriending people and spaces and objects that have lived hundreds of years before us, I think is a good thing.
Sophie, I love Christy. I love your question too. The connection between art and memory and preservation, etc. But Sophie, in what you're doing behind you, I keep looking at the structure behind you as you're talking, and I'm thinking that's not just quoting the past. I mean, you're employing some traditional handicraft that might be considered antique, but you've actually, there's some innovation going on there.
Mm.
That curve, for example, references sacred space, not just functional garden shed or barn or whatever. That's an interesting collision of two kinds of architecture. It's kind of coming out of you, I think.
Mm.
So it's almost like you are preserving or restoring, but you're also innovating. So the tradition is alive in you. Is just what I would say. It's yeah, it's like a living thing. It's not preserved in amber like the fly caught in amber, but it's a living thing that's constantly mutating and changing, but also carrying with it. Anyway, that's what I see behind you is something that seems fresh.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I totally agree. And it seems like that using that word preservation, it's almost like chasing a ghost or something, of trying
Mm.
to recapture something that was lost or maybe never there to begin with. But yeah, exactly that. And clearly I'm so not an artist and don't even have the language to describe what I'm seeing, but it is that, Bruce, I think you're right, that sense of innovation. It's like echoes of the past, maybe the tools or some methods, but it's clearly something new. It's clearly something new is being created. It's just anyway, it's fascinating. I just think that connection between kind of memory and the past, but then it's also, I think art is always about the new. It's always about, I think, the forward-looking recreation, even in a way. Anyway, lovely. Yes, let's get that coffee sometime. We'll have a fuller conversation. This is great.
Yeah, thanks everyone for this has been a really wonderful conversation. I've enjoyed this. Thanks.
One final just quick question for you. So what's the timeline on this project been? How long do you usually spend working out there?
Yeah, this is, so right now I'm still currently a student, so you know, that's what I'm doing full time, and in addition to doing some other work, but this is my weekend. This is what I do on my weekends, and some evenings, and yeah, so it's been, you know, it's been like any war that you wage. There's battles won, there's battles lost, there's encouraging times, discouraging times, and so many people like who have have been there to help me, you know, when either, you know, if I'm doing something I've never done before and I have a question about it, or just, you know, just giving encouragement and things like that. And one of my friends, Kelly, she was down here for the raising. She lives up in Vermont. She was down digging with me 4 feet down into the ground. We have a picture of both of us like looking up from these holes. And one of my friends, Charlotte, came over the weekend before the party and was helping me get everything ready. And so it really it really has been a collaboration, and so I'm very grateful, very grateful.
Awesome. Any final questions, anyone? We can start to wrap things up here. Awesome. Well, yeah, Sophie, thank you again so much for being our host tonight. Where can people connect with you if they watch this video later and want to reach out, ask some more questions, or grab coffee or something?
Yeah,
How can they reach you?
I was actually going to say, if anyone, like, if you're an incoming student or you're at Gordon or whatever, and you do want to chat or ask questions, 2 cents, I will. Yeah. Anyway, there's whether you're interested in sculpture or anything in regards to making, I'd love to chat more. So yeah, I have an email I could give to you, Ryan. It's Sophie Linnell 24@gmail.com. And I could maybe even share my screen again or whatever, but I have an Instagram that's just Sophie_is_building. And those are probably the 2 best ways to get in touch with me, either through Instagram or email.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure all the info is on the website and the video description. Sounds great. Awesome. Well,
Thanks.
yeah, thank
Sophie,
you again.
thank you again.
So much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sophie.
Great.
Sure. Thanks
And-
everyone for listening, sticking around. It was I had fun, so I don't know, that doesn't mean everyone else had fun, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're watching this later, just so you all know, we have 2 more weeks of the Fine Arts Festival. Next week we'll have Stephen Schultz. He and I sat down a few weeks ago and pre-recorded a video where he talks about photography and creative entrepreneurship. So that's next week, and he'll also be answering questions via the live chat. And then our final week, in 2 weeks, we have a panel on what life looks like for communication arts majors after graduation. We'll be joined by 3 Com Arts alums, Megan Bandy, Shalita Francis, and Christina Rowling. And we'll just ask them some questions and it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks for tuning in tonight. Sophie, any final words?
Nope, I've already said too much.
Thanks again, everyone.
Good night.